WordPress app development course using Swift. Today we're going to continue with our app development lab. We're focusing on the Picker color picker app. We've done a couple of videos as we step towards the development of the app. Right now we're going to be focusing on yet another step that is going to help us achieve the goals of the course. So I'm going to open Xcode, and this is exactly where we stopped the last time. And what we had done here was to create this window, and then we also created a switch. And then let me run the code right now so that you can see where we are with the code. See, this is what we've been able to achieve. We created a switch, and then we can turn that switch on and off. That's what we've done so far. So our next task in the project is to be able to create 2 additional switches so that we have 3 switches. And after creating this multiple switches, we are going to use actions and outlets, which is something I talked about in the previous videos. 2 important things: actions and outlets to display the colors depending on the on or off status of each of the switches. So I'm gonna start here by creating the switches. So we're going to start by creating the switches. Add two additional switches. So instead of typically you would go here to the library to create the switches, but what we want to do is we want to simply duplicate this switch. So you click on that switch and Command D, and then you've duplicated it, and then you align it under the current switch. And then I want to another Command D, and then you have duplicated this too. Now I have 3 of these switches all lined up. So after creating the switches, the next thing we want to create is the outlets. In other words, creating the outlets is literally developing a connection between the physical UI components on the screen to the back end. This is where you have the back end where the code runs. So that's literally what you're doing. And to be able to do that, you just want to click each of them, click each, control, and then you drag, and then you drop here. So the first, we are going to call it the red switch. You make sure this is outlets, and then we click connect, and then that's been created. A line of code has been created. Let me kind of close this way so that it becomes so. A line of code has been created. So next we're going to go to the second switch, control, and then you drag, and then that would be the green switch. Then you connect, and then all of a sudden you have that. So let me fill this gap so that it will become obvious how they are connected. And then I'm going to go to the third, and I will say control, drag, and then that's us. And we're going to have what we'll decide to call the blue switch. Connect. So let me move this around a little bit. Okay, so I'm keeping these 3 so you can see this is literally you in each of the cases. This is the blue switch. You can see this, the connections, right? These are the connections for each of this. So you have all of this connected. The next thing we are going to do after getting all of the connections is show you how all of this is connected in the connections inspector. So you want to come to this side of the screen. Just a minute, I need to click on it first. Then yeah, so you can see how value changed is connected to switch changed, and I'm talking about switch change. Remember when we created this particular switch, right? We also connected it to this action, and I'm going to show you graphically what that means eventually. So when we copied this particular switch and duplicated it, right, a lot of the properties associated with this switch were also replicated. So pay attention to the referencing outlets, right? You can see the first says red switch is connected to the view controller. If I go click the second one, all of a sudden green switch, view controller. The third, blue switch, view controller. So that's how each of them is connected to the view controller. But then when you come here, you can see that the view controller that we just referenced right now is connected to each of these switches. That's what you can see here. So I can actually decide to disconnect one of them. Let's say I decide to disconnect. Let me just try to disconnect this, right? You see what has happened? I have disconnected the first one. When I click this, it's completely disconnected from the action, no longer connected to the action. So one way I can reconnect it to the action is, you know, you have the outlet and you have the action, is to literally click on it, control, and I can connect back to it, right? And just a minute, this connect. Oops, sorry about that. I should have clicked control. I didn't do that. Sorry. Instead of going this way, you should actually go this way rather. It's getting used to. Yep, I have connected it back to this. So you can see it's been connected back right now. So if I click each of them, you can see the connections have been made. Remember, the mistake I made was trying to connect this to this. No, you're trying to because when you try to connect each of these switches to this, it creates a new, completely new connection. But this, remember, this action is connected to each of the three. 1, 2, 3. So you can see it's connected to all three of them. And in this case, what we have done, because we were trying to have all of them respond to one action simultaneously. If we wanted each of them to respond to different actions, we would have created different actions for this. For in this case, everything is connected to one action. So when I try to run this, see what happens. Now this has worked, so I can go here and then I get this, but everything, notice everything is red, right? And the reason why everything is red is the action that you have within this action is you're just saying if the sender is on, each of them, if it's on, if I click on here, it should give me change the color view or the background color to red. And if it's not on, which is else, then it has to be black, which underscores what I was talking about before. All of these three switches are connected to one action. To be able to alter all of those actions, one of the things we can do is literally write a new set of codes that would have us use one triggering action but make different changes to each of the switches. So I have a piece of code that I'm gonna copy here and paste. So let's paste this here. So that's what we have here, right? And then one more change that we need to make is to, let me see, highlight this. So we're going to change what you have here. We're going to remove this, right? And we're going to put update color. All right, update color. And same thing, we're also going to do, this is another place where you have color view, where you change your color background color. We're also going to change to update, so that whatever is happening below in the code that we just put together is going to update in all of those. And what exactly is going on here? All we have done is to define each of the colors, you know, CG floats for the color green and blue, and we are setting to 0. So we are saying if the red switch, you know, there are 3 switches: the red switch, the green switch, and the blue switch. If the red switch is on, then it has to go to 1. Remember, the on off is false true on off. So if it is on, the red should show 1. And I'm going to talk some more about CGF float in Swift later. If green switch is on, you also have green equals to 1, which is true. If it is on, then blue is true. So, and then you say let color equals to UI color, the red, and that's where you're defining and mapping each of them. And then you ask for a change in color. Remember, you are assigning this color which you have defined above here to it. So when I run this right now, this is what we get to see. So I change one color, you know, it changes, this changes to a different color, and then you have all these color combinations going on. So if I go do this, there's a mixture of colors because both of the colors are showing up at the same time. A mixture of these 2 colors will give us this. So that's essentially what we've been able to do with this. So we use you know, the function update color, and then we call that function here, and we call that function here. And then all we've done is define the colors and then create conditions. It's purely an if statement. There's no else. If this happens, that's why we could actually toggle 2 of them and get a mixture of the results, because if it was if else, it will be either or, but in this case it's actually a combination. Once this is on, it can show up, and then another one is on, it layers on top of that, and that's why you have the different colors appearing together, mixtures of colors. So I hope this clarifies this aspect of the lab. I will be talking some more about the succeeding portions of this lab later in future videos. Thank you.